So, let's start. Number 10, the Leech Collector. Picture yourself standing in waist-deep swamp water, barefoot, waiting for slimy leeches to wriggle up your legs and latch on. That's not a nightmare. That was the actual job description of leech collectors in the 18th and 19th centuries. Doctors were obsessed with bloodletting, and leeches were the miracle workers of the time. Demand was so high that someone had to supply these wriggly little vampires to apothecaries, and that someone was usually poor villagers, women, or children, the cheapest labor around. The method was as brutal as it was simple. Step into infested ponds, let the leeches bite, then peel them off into jars. Over and over, collectors lost so much blood that anemia, fainting, and infections were occupational hazards. Some even collapsed mid-job and drowned in the very bogs they worked. To make it worse, leeches could carry nasty diseases, so donating your blood often meant donating your health too. At one point, leech collecting got so out of hand that leech populations nearly collapsed in parts of Europe. And all this suffering for a medical practice that didn't even work half the time. Most patients weren't even healed, they just got weaker. Imagine risking your life in a swamp only for the product to be about as useful as medieval snake oil. Leech collecting wasn't just unpleasant, it was slow motion self-destruction, disguised as honest work. Next time you complain about mosquitoes at a picnic, just be glad you're not getting a paycheck to feed them. Number 9. Treadmill prison laborer. When you think treadmill, you picture the gym, maybe sweating while watching reruns of The Office. But the treadmill started out as a punishment device in 19th century British prisons. And no, not the burn calories, live longer kind of punishment, because this was literally designed to crush people's souls. Invented by Sir William Cubitt in 1818, the prison treadmill was basically a giant hamster wheel for humans. Prisoners climbed endless wooden steps attached to a rotating drum, hour after hour, day after day. Some treadmills powered mills or pumped water, but many did nothing at all. The point wasn't productivity, it was suffering. Prisoners endured 6 to 10 hours of climbing daily, sometimes the equivalent of thousands of vertical feet. Their legs blistered, their knees gave out, and exhaustion was constant. Guards enforced silence so you couldn't even complain to your fellow inmates. One 1820s prison report described men collapsing, fainting, or being carried off the wheel entirely. The monotony was considered part of the punishment. Critics later called the treadmill monstrous torture, and by the late 1800s it was banned. Ironically, about 100 years later, gyms reinvented the treadmill as exercise equipment. So yeah, when you're groaning about cardio, remember, the machine under your feet was first designed to psychologically and physically break prisoners, and honestly, it still kind of feels like it. Number 8. The Fuller. Forget your laundry detergent smelling like lavender. In ancient Rome, washing clothes meant soaking them in human urine, and the poor souls who had to handle this every day were called fullers. Here's how it worked. Public urinals collected giant pots of urine, which was rich in ammonia. Ammonia is actually a decent cleaning agent, so fullers stomped dirty togas in vats of pee, squishing the fabric around with their bare feet. Imagine a grape stomping festival, but instead of making wine, you're making the worst smelling laundry service in history. The work was brutal. Hours of standing in caustic liquid corroded skin, blistered feet, and left workers smelling like a walking latrine. Fullers also used clay and lye, which burned the skin even worse. They weren't exactly respected members of society either. In fact, Roman writers joked about how fullers could never wash off the stench of their own trade. And yet, this gross profession was absolutely essential. Freshly laundered togas were a status symbol, and wealthy Romans wanted their whites looking crisp. So fullers had steady work, but at the cost of permanent stink and total social humiliation. So yeah, laundry day has always been miserable, but at least modern detergent doesn't come from your neighbor's chamber pot. Number 7, Resurrectionists, a.k.a. grave robbers for science. In the 18th and 19th centuries, medical schools desperately needed cadavers for anatomy lessons. Problem: society didn't really like the idea of legally donating bodies. Solution: hire resurrectionists who snuck into graveyards at night and dug up fresh corpses. Sounds like a horror movie, right? For many families it was. People buried loved ones with iron cages called mort safes, or even armed guards to keep resurrectionists away. But the demand was huge and the pay was good. Sometimes a body could fetch the equivalent of several months' wages. For the Resurrectionists, though, it was a nightmare profession. Digging graves in secrecy was grueling, filthy, and dangerous. They risked collapsing soil, fights with rival body snatchers, and mob justice if caught. Families sometimes attacked suspected robbers, and courts often punished them severely. The ultimate scandal came with Burke and Hare in Scotland, who decided grave robbing was too much work and just started murdering people to sell their corpses. Career advancement in this field could mean digging up the dead or helping make more of them. Either way, it was one of history's grimiest, most terrifying jobs. Number 6. The Tosher. Imagine wading waist deep through Victorian London sewers, armed with a lantern, a pole, and a sack. That was the life of the Toshers, men who made a living scavenging for lost valuables in the city's underbelly. If coins, jewelry, and discarded goods, if it slipped into the drains, a Tosher might find them. Sounds adventurous, right? Only if your definition of adventure includes drowning in human waste. Toshers had to crawl through cramped, pitch-black tunnels filled with raw sewage, rats, and toxic gases. Methane could ignite from a lantern, while hydrogen sulfide might silently knock you unconscious. Then there were the infamous flushes, sudden surges of water when storms hit, or toilets above were emptied, sweeping unlucky Toshers into oblivion. And let's not forget the constant risk of infection. Cuts from debris often turned septic, and many died from cholera and typhoid. Despite the misery, Toshers kept at it because the pay could actually be decent. A dropped gold ring or silver spoon might fetch more than a week's honest wages. Some even worked in family teams, bringing along children to squeeze into the tightest pipes. Victorian society both despised and relied on them, disgusted by their work, yet quietly grateful when lost valuables were returned. So yeah, treasure hunting in the sewers wasn't quite Indiana Jones, it was more like Fear Factor meets a very unhygienic death trap. Number 5. The Powder Monkey, cannon helper on warships. If you were a scrawny teenager in the 18th or 19th century, congratulations, you might get stuck as a powder monkey. These kids, some as young as 10, were tasked with ferrying gunpowder from the ship's magazine to the cannons during naval battles. Picture sprinting back and forth across a ship that's rocking violently, carrying bags of explosives while cannon fire and musket balls whiz past your head. Not exactly a safe summer job. The magazines where powder was stored were basically giant bombs waiting to go off. One stray spark could vaporize the whole ship. That meant powder monkeys often worked barefoot or with cloth-wrapped shoes to avoid static. On deck, they dodged falling rigging, splinters, and enemy gunfire, knowing a single mistake could turn them into confetti. Many didn't survive long enough to grow out of the job. Captains valued powder monkeys because they were quick and small, able to weave between gunners, but the pay was miserable, and the trauma was lifelong. Accounts describe boys permanently deaf from cannon blasts, scarred from burns, or emotionally broken from watching crewmates torn apart beside them. So next time you hear the term child labor, remember that some kids were sprinting across death traps with explosives strapped to their backs. Number 4. Gong farmers, medieval poop collectors. In medieval England, cities didn't have plumbing. They had cesspits, giant holes under buildings where human waste collected for months or years, and eventually someone had to clean those out. Enter the Gong farmers, whose entire job was shoveling, hauling, and carting away other people's filth. Work started at night when the smell was slightly less unbearable and fewer people were around to gag. Gong farmers climbed into cesspits, often chest deep in sewage, and filled buckets to be hauled up and dumped into carts. They risked collapsing pits, suffocation from toxic fumes, and drowning in sludge. Records tell of workers overcome by gases like methane and simply never coming back out. Despite the disgust, Gong farmers were paid surprisingly well, sometimes several times more than a skilled craftsman. But they were social outcasts. People crossed the street to avoid them, and laws restricted where they could live. Even after a wash, the stench clung to their clothes and skin, branding them for life. The job was basically a professional poop wrangler. Necessary, yes, but also proof that in history, somebody always got stuck with humanity's dirtiest work. Number 3. The Matchstick Girls. In the 1800s, cheap matches were big business. Factories in London and beyond churned them out by the millions, employing mostly poor young women and girls. The job sounded simple. dip sticks into phosphorus, dry them, and pack them into boxes. But there was one problem. Phosphorus is extremely toxic. Day after day, workers inhaled phosphorus fumes that caused a horrifying condition called phossy jaw. Their teeth rotted, gums turned black, and pieces of jawbone literally died and crumbled out of their mouths. The pain was excruciating, and the stench made the victims social pariahs. Many girls also suffered lung damage, miscarriages, and early deaths, all for pennies a day. Factory owners knew about the dangers but ignored them because profits came first. Some even fined workers for missing shifts, forcing sick girls to keep working until they collapsed. The scandal finally broke into public view in the late 1800s when striking match girls demanded better conditions and helped push reforms. Looking back, the Matchstick Girls story is both tragic and inspiring, a reminder of how dangerous normal factory jobs once were, and how workers literally had to risk their lives just to light other people's cigars. Number 2. The knocker-up. Before alarm clocks were affordable, there was a bizarre profession: the knocker-up. From the 1700s to the early 1900s, working-class people in Britain and Ireland hired human alarm clocks to wake them up for their shifts. The knocker-up's tools, a long stick, a pea shooter, or even just a loud knock on the window. Sounds harmless. Not exactly. Knocker-ups had to work brutal hours, wandering city streets from 2 a.m. to dawn in all weather. They battled freezing rain, howling winds, and aggressive stray dogs just to make sure grumpy factory workers got out of bed. If you had a customer on the 5th floor, you'd better have strong lungs or a good aim with that pea shooter. The job didn't pay much, and it came with plenty of hazards: drunks starting fights, thieves lurking in alleys, and sheer exhaustion from walking miles every night. And if you failed to wake someone, you risked being fired, or worse. Still, knocker-ups kept society running during the Industrial Revolution, making sure factories and trains started on time. They were eventually replaced by cheap alarm clocks, which, let's be honest, are still annoying, but at least they don't need to stand outside your window at 4 a.m. pelting peas at the glass. Number 1. The powdered wig maker. Finally, let's talk about one of the fanciest yet most miserable jobs in history. Wig making in the 17th and 18th centuries. Those towering powdered wigs worn by nobles and judges. They weren't just a fashion statement, they were also a death sentence for the people who made them. Wig makers used mercury nitrate to treat animal furs, which gave the wigs their smooth, shiny look. The problem? Mercury vapor is incredibly toxic. Inhaling it day after day caused tremors, memory loss, mood swings, and eventually organ failure. The phrase "mad as a hatter" actually came from a similar mercury-related trade, but wig makers weren't far behind. Workers often died young while their wealthy clients strutted around oblivious, showing off their prestige hair. Even the powder used on wigs contained toxic ingredients like lead and arsenic, so both makers and wearers weren't exactly safe. But the fashion craze was unstoppable, at least until natural hairstyles and hygiene started winning out. So, yeah, behind every nobleman's fabulous curls was some poor artisan slowly being poisoned to death. Fashion has always had its victims, but wig makers really paid the ultimate price. Thank you for watching and sticking till the end. We've got plenty more videos coming in the future. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss them. See you in the next one.